Hello everybody, this is Travis and welcome back to the channel. Well, here's the scenario. You need a brand new computer, you don't have a lot of money, say 40 bucks, what are you gonna do? Well, I want you to stay tuned because we're gonna take a look at the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, where for 40 bucks and maybe a few small parts you got sitting around the house, you might just be in business for what you need. All right, here we go. Okay, so let's get started. I want to keep this as tech simple as possible because a lot of you out there just might simply want to buy something that you can just plug a few things into and start using it. And it really can be that easy when it comes to the Raspberry Pi. Just real quick from some of the technical specs, the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus has a 1.4 gigahertz quad-core processor, 1 gig of RAM. We've also got Bluetooth, USB connections, an Ethernet connection, and Wi-Fi. And just a few other options that we'll get into when we start talking about it. Now, when you get the unit itself, you're just going to get essentially a circuit board. And more or less, that's what the Raspberry Pi is. Now, in this video, you're going to see that I have my Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, we'll just call it the Raspberry Pi, in an enclosure. The nice thing about the enclosures is you have things like cooling fans, and it kind of protects the unit itself, makes it look a little bit more tidy, a little more neat, but you can actually function without this. So after we talk about what some of the basic features are in this unit, I'm just going to give you a quick kind of scan of what some of your options are going to be depending on how handy you might be with computers, as well as how comfortable you are working with the technology, because you can actually make this very, very simple. So real quick, just to talk about some of the features of the unit itself, we do have 4 USB ports right here, which makes it really simple for plugging in things like a keyboard or a wireless mouse or a wired mouse or accessories and peripherals, etc. We've also got an Ethernet port right here, so you can hardwire into your internet. So if you don't want to mess with the Wi-Fi, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Over here on the side, we've got HDMI out, so you can plug it right into a monitor or your television. We'll show you what this looks like. We'll plug this into my 4K TV downstairs. Now, while it's not going to push the 4K resolution, it is going to give you great resolution anyway. We've also got an audio out jack right here, so you can plug in some headphones. And to power the unit, you can just use a cell phone charger. This is a micro USB port or a mini USB port, I believe micro. And we'll also talk about the charging because you have to be a little bit careful what you use, although it's really not that complicated. On the bottom of the unit, there's a little socket right here, and you plug in a micro SD card. I'm just running a 16 gig micro SD card that I had sitting around, and the operating system really doesn't take up that much space. And this little space right here, this allows you to plug in certain accessories to it if you want to. If you notice, I have my fan plugged into a couple of the pins right here. This case actually came with the fan, and it shows you how to hook it up so that you can power the fan right off the circuit board. And these little blue spots that you see on here, these are actually cooling sinks that let the unit run a lot cooler if it needs to. Now, all this stuff is completely unnecessary. It will just run basically right out of the box once you plug in your memory card with the operating system on it. So real quick, we're going to just talk about what kind of options you have if you decide you want to go this route, and then we'll just take a look at the operating system and see what it's like when you plug it in. Alright, so to make this as easy as possible, we're just going to go to Amazon.com to show you some options for what you can buy. And by the way, I'm not sponsored by any of these companies. There's no affiliate money coming my way from showing you this stuff. I just want to show you how to get into this as easy as possible. So we're just going to assume that you have very little technology experience, that you don't like to put a lot of things together, and you might not have necessarily the parts that you need. Well, the first thing you got to do is go ahead and get yourself the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so in your search box, you're just going to type in Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, just like you see right here. And it's going to bring up all the listing for the thousands and thousands of accessories and things that are out there. Well, all you got to do is try to find yourself the circuit board right here, which in this case, it's $37.81. And I'll put a link to this in the description box for you down below. Now, what's really nice about this is there's a ton of companies. CanaKit's one of these companies, for example. They sell basically everything you need to get started. So you got to kind of look at what you have sitting around. If you already have a little micro SD card sitting around, and you've already got a cell phone charger sitting around, and a keyboard, a mouse, and all that stuff, you really can get started on a shoestring budget. We're just going to go ahead and pick one of these little CanaKits here, and we'll figure out which one we want to go with. Alright, so depending on, again, what you have sitting around, that's going to determine what you're going to need to buy. So let's just assume that you don't have anything. If that's the situation, you have to spend just a little bit more money than what we had planned on before. So basically for $48.99, you're going to get the unit, you're going to get the cooling sinks that you just put on the unit itself, and the instructions show you how to do that. You're also going to get the power unit that's going to go along with it, or your cell phone charger essentially is what that's going to be, and that's also going to have an on-off switch, which is really nice.
Again, if you're buying parts separately, you want to make sure that your power supply says 2.5A, which just means 2.5 amps, which is going to have more than enough power for what you need to run it. If you don't mind spending a little bit more, okay, for $54.99, you can get yourself essentially the same thing, but this time with the case. Now, if you really want to hunt around, you can buy all these parts separately and save just a little bit more money. Now, as we go up the price point just a little bit more, you start to run into these kits that include everything that you absolutely need to get started. So if you don't have a memory card sitting around, you don't have a power source, you just want to buy one kit, get everything, you're all set to go. This is a pretty good deal right here. This is $79.99, and what this is going to do is this is going to get you the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. It's going to get you the memory card that's going to have the operating system on it. It's going to have the HDMI cable to hook up to your television. You're going to get your AC adapter, your cooling sinks, and an enclosure. So basically, you are going to be all set to go. So depending on what you have sitting around, what you have, that really does have a huge determination on how much money you're going to spend. So you're going to want to pick one of those kits based on what you don't have. So unfortunately, what is the $40 computer is going to turn into the $80 computer depending on what you want to do. Now me, I just happen to have a mouse around, and I happen to have a keyboard around, and a 16 gigabyte memory card, so I was able to put the operating system on it. The nice thing about these Canna kits is that it's already going to come with an operating system on it. Now, I'm not going to show you how to put the operating system on the memory card. There's a ton of YouTube videos that can walk you through it. You can do a Google search on how to install the operating system on a Raspberry Pi. You can also buy these memory cards if you want to with an operating system already installed on it. And we'll just take a look at one of those here in a second to see what exactly it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you just a little bit more than maybe than what you're going to spend just on buying the memory card by itself. And the honest truth is, when it comes to buying all these parts separately, it's essentially going to cost you about the same if you buy all this stuff separately versus just buying in a kit. So again, you want to buy a kit that comes with as much as possible so that you have to do as little as possible for shopping around for spare parts. So one thing about the Raspberry Pi is that it's not going to come with an operating system installed on the circuit card itself, installed on the unit itself. You've got to put the operating system on a memory card like I mentioned before. Again, if you don't want to mess with it, if you're not tech savvy at all, you have a lot of options. Just type in Raspbian micro SD card. And if you do that, you'll have an option to find one of the cards that's going to have the operating system already on it. And as you can see, you don't have to spend a lot of money. Here's a 16 gig option that's got Noob's operating system on it for $14.40. The nice thing about that is once you just plug that into that little socket and you hook that Raspberry Pi up, and you go through the startup procedures, it's going to update itself and give you the newest version of Noobs, which is really nice. Again, it just depends on what you want to spend. You've got $14, $14.99. Let's just sort this by the least expensive and see if we can't get you a better price here. Here's $11.99 for a 16 gig memory card. Now that's also going to be your storage space. So if you only spend 16 gigs, several gigs of that's going to be taken up by the operating system. And then say you want to save pictures, you want to download music and stuff like that, you're going to be just a little bit limited to the amount of storage space that you have on your card. So you might want to get yourself a larger card or maybe budget just a little bit more for a little more space if you want to. Me, I've got 16 gigs and it works just fine. All right, so now what we're going to do is actually show you what the Raspberry Pi B, the 3B Plus, is going to look like once you turn it on. What exactly are you going to be getting for the money?
Okay guys, so I do want to apologize. This isn't going to look very professional because unfortunately I can't run any screen capture software on the Raspberry Pi. But this is just your basic interface. Once you turn the system on after you've already set it up and basically registered the operating system, which is not very difficult. You just have to answer a few questions. This is just one example of the desktop, and I just want to show you what some of the options are going to look like when you're running it. So if you click on the top left corner, you have computer programming programs. So if you've got a kid that's into coding or you want to get into coding and programming yourself, you've got a lot of different options right here. If you don't do that, you just can skip it altogether. There's a Smart Sim education program. Now, from the Office perspective, you've got LibreOffice, LibreOffice Calc, Draw, Base, Impress, Math, and Writer. This is basically an open source free version of Microsoft Office. I've been using it for years, and it does work great. Internet-wise, you've got your web browser, which will fire that up in a little bit. You can also set up a box if you want to for your email. You got a sound and video player that's going to let you play any kind of audio files you might download or watch videos and movies and things like that. You can also check out pictures that people send you. You can open them up on the image viewer. Games, it does come with Minecraft Pi, which is kind of cool. It's its own little version of Minecraft, and it also has Python games where you can program if you want to. But again, if you just want this just for simply web consumption, I think it's a perfect device for that. You got a calculator, file manager, task manager, terminal, text editor. A lot of these things are maybe a little more technical than what you're going to need if you're just kind of an average everyday user. And then there's a few apps down here. There's a video poker you can use. There's ebook offline reader, solitaire. There you go. Unit converter, and Zoom, which I believe is a video conferencing app if I'm not mistaken. You can also look for help if you need it. And there is a store out there that I'll try to show you here in a little bit. And you can go there if you want to add or remove software. So again, if you click on add or remove software, it's going to show you all the different software that you have on the machine. And you can also search for software if you need to. And I believe that there's a Pi store out there that's going to let you get apps if you want them to. And again, you've got your audio settings, your keyboard mouse settings, main menu editor, recommended software, and configuration. Okay, and then you can also run programs if you need to with shutdown. So let's just look at the most important thing. You know, what does Facebook look like on this thing? What does eBay look like on this thing? Let's go to those places that maybe you like to visit. So just open up the web browser, and it might take a few seconds to open. Now I'm running on Wi-Fi. Up in the top right corner, I've got the Wi-Fi antenna showing I'm connected. There is audio, and this is the Bluetooth connector right here. By the way, this might darken just a little bit. I want to apologize for that. Let's see if we can make a quick adjustment on the exposure. Let's just go with that and see how it is. Okay, so basically you've got your browser like you're used to. First thing we want to do is let's just go ahead and go right on over to YouTube. And as you may or may not know, I've got a couple different channels. Okay guys, my bad on that. So here we go. So you can see what it looks like. Let's go on over to my B channel, which is all technology. We just type in my name. There we go. And head on over there. As you can see, it does load fairly quick. Let's just go ahead and play one of my videos and see what it looks like. It does put all of your audio and video out through the HDMI cables, which is really nice. Here's a video that I had a couple weeks ago that I put up on how to make iced coffee. Plays without any issues at all. As for resolution, I think I can run 1080p with no problems. This says Auto 720, but we can go 1080p. Go ahead and mute that real quick for you. But again, you can go full screen if you want to. I noticed on higher resolutions, it does stutter just a little bit. It does kind of pixelate out a little bit, but it is completely usable if it needs to be, and that's one really nice thing about it. But again, you're getting in this whole setup for basically 40 bucks, more or less, depending on what you have for parts kind of sitting around the house. Let's just head on over to Facebook. I don't think I'm signed in on Facebook on this unit, but you can just see how quickly it opens up for you. There you go. And that's essentially Facebook. As you can see, there's very little lag at all. I mean, everything just basically shows up and it's there, which is really nice. It's pretty cool. All right, let's just go on over to eBay. Again, you know, whatever kind of apps you like, you know, you can play video through this, you can listen to music, Pandora, all that fun stuff. Whatever you use, you can get to it. Okay, so here's the eBay experience. Let's just go ahead and shop for something and just see how fast the search comes up. Let's see, whoa. Wow, I am not typing good today. Okay, let's get that. Chevy Silverado. Because I'm in the market for an early 2000 Silverado because I want to pick up. All right, you can just see how quickly everything pops up. So again, you know, you're all set to go, and it really does handle this without too much issue. There's a little box up here that has a meter on it, and that shows you how much it's taxing the processor, which is kind of interesting. And that does tell you if you're really pushing the system really hard and it's bogging down, you might notice it getting up in the 80–90%. Reading in the top right corner, again, it's technical. You can avoid that altogether if you want to, and really not have any problems. So let's just go back to Google real quick. Alright, so now the question still remains, is this Raspberry Pi 3B Plus the perfect $40 home computer? Yes and no. Okay, so if you've got a lot of parts that you need and you're already kind of tech savvy and you're comfortable working on computers, I think you're going to find this to be just an excellent second computer to have around the house. If you're somebody who's not really sure, you know, you can just get yourself one of the kits where everything is just plug and play, plug it into your screen, and you're more or less up and running in just a few minutes, which is really nice. These make great, you know, a great inexpensive computer for maybe a first computer for a young child, or maybe somebody, if you've got a kid that's into computer programming. These are fantastic with all the programs that are built in. And I will put a few links below to some of those kits for you to check out. I'm not being endorsed by any of those companies. They're just kits that make it easy for you to just buy it, plug it in, you're up and running in no time. When it comes to the enclosures, there are hundreds of different enclosures you can get on Amazon. So if you're searching for a different box to put your Raspberry Pi in, make sure you type in Raspberry Pi 3B Plus enclosure. and make sure it says that in the description so you know it's going to work with your Raspberry Pi, because there's several different models of Raspberry Pi by this point that are out there that you can purchase, and the Pi 3B Plus is the newest one. So again, is it a great computer for 40 bucks? It can be. It can also be much more expensive if you don't have any of the parts sitting around that you might need to make it work. But again, it's not tough to get into. So guys, hopefully this wasn't too intimidating as we take a look at the Raspberry Pi. It's a really great little machine. I would have given anything to have something like this when I was in college in the mid-90s. This would have been so nice instead of dropping all the money that I did on my laptop, which was very, very outdated by today's standards. So anyway, guys, that's it. If you like what you see, please like or subscribe. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Guys, make sure you mash that bell so you don't miss any new material when I put the content out there on YouTube. In the meantime, guys, I want you to have fun. I want you to be safe. And as you know, we will talk to you soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.